Good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of UPressPlay Sports Edition. I'm your host, business manager Joseph Acosta, here with photo editor Eston Parker and sports editor Richard Pereira. I'll start with you, Richard. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great.
Eston, how about you?
Feeling pretty good.
All right, we're feeling good. We got the hats, we got the caps ready. We got to go get the caps. We got to get the caps ready. If you say anything ever about cap, Eston's got the cap. Richard's ready. We're ready to get started. Let's go ahead. We're going to go right into it with FAU baseball. Recently, they're hit a little bit of a slide recently, losing 2 out of 3 to South Florida, last game being a heartbreaking 6-5 loss on a walk-off. But, I feel like this is entering an important stretch of the season for the Owls because they've lost a lot of games recently, lost a lot of series, but this is the chance where we get to see what the team is made out of. Richard, what do you see so far in these losses?
It's more or less, it feels like a learning curve for the team. It really is unfortunate that they lost on the last game of the series, 6-5, like off a game-winning homer by USF. They just got to be careful by not peaking too early. After that win against the Gators, it feels like they've been on a bad stretch of losing games, only winning the one. It's frustrating, but I know they're capable of doing much better than they've been doing recently. So we'll see what happens as we go down the road for the team.
Yeah, we'll definitely see some more improvement. It's rare that we ever see FAU really get shut out like they did in the second of those 3 games where they lost 0-4 to South Florida. FAU was only held to 2 hits in the entire game. Compare that to the game on Sunday where they had 9 hits, but South Florida got the one hit that mattered in the end. Eston, what do you think FAU can learn from this stretch of games? Because they've lost 3 out of 4.
I think and similar to what Richard said, this seems to be a bit of a learning curve time, and I think if they can, they need to remember that they're good enough to beat teams like Florida and a team like Miami. I mean, most of the guys were a part of the team that essentially dominated last year at FAU. I'm hoping that this week against actually, I believe the game is tomorrow. I have confidence that they might be able to pull this one off tomorrow, considering it's a home game. They've had a bad run of games, and I'd really like to see the bats open up. That's been one big difference I've been noticing when watching them the past few games is that, early in the season, we were talking about how seemingly everyone had a live bat. Everyone was hitting very well. We haven't been seeing that very much in the past couple of weeks. So if they can, go back to the basics and essentially say, listen, we're obviously a good enough team to compete with these elite level schools. We have the talent that's there, and also they're still a really young team. So if they can get a good little streak going, hopefully starting with tomorrow, I think it's not do or die time yet. I'm not too worried, honestly. But if these scores continue the way that they've been going, essentially, let's see where we're at next week before we raise any alarms.
Yeah, I feel like FAU baseball has entered this part of the season where they're getting a good game from hitting, not a good game for pitching. Good game for pitching, not a good game for hitting. What they need to do is put together a complete game. Hate to use the pitching term, but they need a complete game out of both sides, offense and defense. You really just hope that the bats will come around. I think they will because, again, it's rare that we're going to see FAU get offered in a whole game. Like, we're not going to see FAU get held to 0 runs for the rest of the season. I can bank on that. But they just got to put together a complete game, They got some nice bats. They got some good home runs from Caleb Pendleton, Nolan Shanuel, who played out of their minds as freshmen. It's hard to remember that they're not like these veterans when they're actually like probably like a year or two younger than us. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come around later in the season. But like I said, they just need to put together a whole 9 innings, offense, defense, putting it together. Their next game is going to be against number 18 Miami on Tuesday, March 23rd. We'll have the recap for you. We'll have the recap for you at the University Press. Let's move on to men's and women's soccer. They had a series against Old Dominion. On March 19th, the FAU women lost to Old Dominion 0-2, and the men won on Sunday, March 21st, 1-0. So, Richard, what did you see from that women's team in that loss?
Yeah, it was a disappointing loss. Like, they were clearly lacking offensively. They only had 2 shots the whole game, and it's just a disappointing loss. And there's not much that can be said other than they conceded 2 goals, and they just didn't do enough offensively to make up for that lack of efficiency on the defensive end.
Yeah, and you talk about the shots that they had. Looking at the stats now, FAU women only had 2 shots and 1 on goal for the entire game. Old Dominion had 12 shots and 4 on goal. So, Eston, what do you think can be improved from this women's team based on this last game?
I mean, you just said it. We got to create more shots. Also, real quick, is my computer like really loud at the moment? Like, can y'all hear it running? Okay, cool. But anyways, like you said, JP, they got to create more opportunities. I mean, to not have a single shot attempted in the first half.
Yeah,
come on,
that's
come
rough.
on. So, I mean, like I said, just got to create more opportunities. I mean, it's not like they're allowing 3 or 4 goals. 2 goals, a 2-goal deficit, or allowing 1 goal a half it's not that bad. So if they can at least create chances, maybe that can help them defensively not concede goals. So
yeah, definitely having those 12 shots. That's being outshot 12-2 is not something that you want at all in any level of soccer. It really just comes with you gotta get some opportunities. It's not like they've had a lot of shots on goal, but they just were. The keeper had a great game. They weren't getting any shots at all. And credit to Old Dominion's defense. They kept it away from them for a long time. But that's definitely something that has to be improved on for the women going into the next game. For the men, they had a 1-0 win. It feels like a lot of these games are coming down to their defense, which, we've talked about a lot on this podcast. If you know us, we are a huge fan of FAU men's soccer defense. We think we are the best. We've had the best defensive season. I think Richard said we had the best defensive season since like the 90s, which is insane. But, this game, it came down to defense. Old Dominion had 9 shots, 6 on goal, compared to FAU's 13 and 5 on goal. FAU had 6 saves. That's essentially what you want from a defense that's supposed to be one of the best. So, Richard, this season has been a little up and down for the FAU men's soccer. What do you think they can improve on as they keep going into conference play?
First off, continue being aggressive offensively. Like, you had 13 shots, 5 on target. That's good. Like, you got to keep that up if you're gonna be at the top of the conference, top of Conference USA. If you're actually gonna make the NCAA tournament, which you have to top the conference to do so, you're pretty much going to have to do just that. Like, keep that offense as high as you can, take as many shots as you can, have those shots be as accurate to goal as possible, and just keep playing good defense. And coming off those losses against FIU in Kentucky, who the latter was ranked nationally, this was a good bounce back performance from them.
Eston, we talked a little bit about what they can improve on, but what have you seen so far from this men's team that you're like, this stands out to me as this thing that they're going to be known for in Conference USA?
Well, aside from the defensive stats that we've been praising throughout the season so far, the goalkeeping I think has been very good. Neil Strauber, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly,
You are.
again had another pretty solid game. I mean, 6 saves. He's saving every shot that was accurate, that was on goal. It's pretty impressive. It's really good to see a goalie who, when it's up to him, he's not going to let his defense down. So that's been something that's really encouraging. And another thing is, again, like we've been saying, for the men's team, they've been creating the opportunities. If they're keeping the pressure on the opposing team throughout the game, that's something that you really want to see. And I've also been noticing a lot of intensity from the players. There's a certain attitude, there's a swagger to them that I personally haven't seen, especially since I've been coming to school here. So that's something that's really encouraging moving forward, especially as we get closer towards that, the conference tournament.
And that's something that I think is going to come around. I think of course, you want to see some more offensive production from FAU. You can have those 1-0 wins, but you'd like to have a little bit of a cushion there. But you definitely enjoy seeing the defense continue to play at an historic rate for a FAU men's soccer team. Just shout out to Jean-Paul Raffles. He scored the lone goal in the Old Dominion game in the 66th minute. And, he's, I believe, in the top goal scorers, one of the top goal scorers for FAU this season so far. Yeah. Of course, Alonzo Coelho and Blake Dean and Ivan Malhenko all lead the team with 2 goals apiece. But the next game for FAU men's soccer will be March 27th. That is a Saturday versus South Carolina. That's
against the Cox.
I should have known. That was happening. I should have known as soon as I saw South Carolina, you was going to say something. But yes, they are playing the South Carolina Gamecocks on Saturday. The FAU women's soccer team will be playing Friday versus Charlotte in Boca Raton. Both games will be in Boca. If you can, go out and support the FAU soccer teams. Now we move on into national sports, and I don't know about you guys, I have thoroughly enjoyed this NCAA tournament. These games have all been exciting. They've all been real fun. We have Oral Roberts knocking off Ohio State and Florida, something only Urban Meyer has done. And you also have Loyola Chicago, who shouldn't have been ranked number 8, just giving teams the absolute business on defense.
I knew it.
Richard called it, We're going to give Richard his props because he said Loyola Chicago is the real deal. But what has stuck out to you so far in the NCAA tournament, Richard, other than Loyola Chicago just absolutely putting everybody in the torture rack?
Like, you're hearing some unknown, little known teams like Oral Roberts as the main example, like surprising everybody in the bracket. Like, they're pretty much breaking everybody's bracket because their name is so unknown that people thought they would be the heavy underdogs in the first round matchup. And we see that they shocked everybody. Then we move on and they take out the Gators. This NCAA tournament is very unique. It's not your usual tournament without Duke, North Carolina, and all those.
Well, they had North Carolina, who immediately got blown out by Wisconsin. But you're right, they don't have a Duke or a Kentucky. Michigan State got knocked out in the first 4. So that's opened up for schools like Abilene Christian, who beat Texas, Oral Roberts, Oregon State, who knocked off Oklahoma State. It's opened up for those lower seeded teams to make those runs because in a year where nothing was predictable, the NCAA tournament has been everything but predictable. Eston, what teams have impressed you so far throughout this NCAA tournament?
Honestly, other than Oral Roberts, which I mean, again, absolute props to them. They have done an exceptional job so far, and I'm not going to go further into them more than anybody else has. But the one team that has been exciting for me to watch is Oregon. I mean,
Oh yeah,
they just overwhelmed Iowa.
they
the other
ran
day.
him out the gym.
Oh yeah, I mean they really bought the quack to them. So I'm sorry, I had to do it, but
Hey man, that's kind of quacked up. Let's quacked up. Let's keep going.
I mean they did quack them up. So Oregon did. They've been a really fun team to watch. I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcome of the Creighton Ohio game because I'm going to call it right now. The winner of that game will beat Gonzaga. Waiting for it to happen.
Ooh.
I don't know if I can go that far, man.
Gonzaga has been in cruise mode right now.
Gonzaga is, I don't know. See, I think
Like I see them making the final and winning.
I think Gonzaga is beatable. I just don't think Creighton or Ohio is going to be the one to do it.
If it wasn't for the craziness of this tournament, I would, go with my gut and say that Gonzaga is going to advance and probably to the Final Four. But considering all that's been going on, at this point, I feel more confident picking the underdog than I do the number one seed because
any given
no one
game,
has a perfect bracket.
Yeah. Right now, I see Gonzaga and Creighton as my Sweet 16 matchup. So we'll see what happens between Creighton and Ohio. But I see Creighton going through.
but see, I don't know, man. I feel like after watching Gonzaga and then watching Baylor, I'm like, Baylor is the better team. I think Baylor is a better team than Gonzaga. I chose Gonzaga to win the bracket just off of that. I think
I see that as the final.
that's going to be the final. But, dude, Baylor is so much faster and stronger than everybody else in that side of the bracket. I forgot who they were playing the other day. Oh, they were playing Wisconsin. And poor Wisconsin, man, because they got run out the gym. Davion Mitchell, Baylor's point guard, is legit the quickest player on the floor. I will put him up against anybody else in the NCAA tournament left. He's the fastest player on the floor. But the one thing I've noticed from the NCAA tournament is the Pac-12 is running everything. We thought the Big Ten was the real power conference. They had Michigan as the 1 seed. They had Illinois as the 1 seed. They had Ohio State and Iowa as the 2 seeds. Well, Illinois is gone. Ohio State's gone. Iowa's gone. So that leaves Michigan and Maryland as the last 2 teams standing from the Big Ten. Who would have thought Maryland would have been the last 2 teams left standing from a packed Big Ten conference? But when you look at the Pac-12, you still got Oregon and Oregon State. You got, I don't think USC is still in, but Colorado. I mean,
USC does play Kansas.
USC plays Kansas. And USC has a player, Evan Mobley. He is the real deal. He's a 7-footer who can move, man. So the Pac-12 has been running the NCAA tournament. And it's been rather surprising because the Big Ten had the best conference in the regular season. But of course, none of that regular season stuff matters when you get to the NCAA tournament. And
similar to how they are in college football.
Yeah. And I mean, if I were to give a shout out real quick, it's got to be the Loyola Chicago, man. Loyola Chicago puts teams in the torture chamber defensively. They gave Illinois all the fits on that side of the ball. They couldn't make a shot. And they're so disciplined. Like, they're going to commit fouls, but they're going to reach for the ball. They're going to get turnovers. They're going to create havoc. And that's going to lead to easy shots for Cameron Krutwig, who looks like he should be like a plumber in like Montana, but he's given Illinois buckets. That is a very good team, a lot better than that 8 seed ranking. So that's the NCAA tournament has been fun, man. I've enjoyed it. I've been watching all the games. It's been really great. I don't know what you guys thought about. What have you guys thought about the NCAA tournament so far?
I haven't been able to watch every game this tournament, but I did catch a few, and I'm looking at specifically. I'm pretty sure it was the one involving Syracuse. Yeah,
Syracuse, West Virginia?
yeah, I think it was that.
Dude, Syracuse, I don't understand. How do teams not be able to break 2-3 zone? Zone is for cowards. And I'm not afraid to say that. If you play 2-3 zone or 3-2 zone or 2-1-2, you are a coward because you are afraid that you don't have the good enough dudes to get beat in man-to-man. You don't have a good enough athlete to get beat in man-to-man coverage, so you know what you do? You just put them in a zone. That is cowardly defense.
My middle school basketball coach would absolutely love what you're saying right now.
Oh.
It is. If I were a coach, we're playing full court press, man-to-man. You get beat, you got it.
Okay, I remember what I was watching. It was Clemson and Rutgers.
That was a good one.
Clemson let themselves down, bro. That turnover was bad.
Yeah, and then I think Rutgers or one of them played Houston, and it came down to Texas Tech played Houston, and it came down to literally the final shot, and it was a layup right at the rim, and a Texas Tech guard missed it, and I'm like, oh no, not like this. It was a contested layup, but man, you gotta feel for the dude. But we're gonna move on into the NFL. NFL free agency wave one began last week. Some high-profile stuff going on. The New York Jets spending a lot of money. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Essen, I'll start with you. Who do you think has been the biggest winner from free agency so far?
Other than the New England Patriots fan base for actually seeing their team sign players and spend money for once, off the top of my head, I'm looking at the Giants as a team that's made some sensible signings, and also honestly Tampa Bay so far. I know it's a little under the radar, but I mean, to keep Shaquille Barrett, to bring back Gronk, you're bringing back Godwin. I mean, and to keep their key players like that,
and to stay under the salary cap. That's really it. They stayed under the salary cap doing all of that stuff. It's absolute wizardry.
And another year of Brady. I mean, I don't know what's going to stop him at this point. They're just going to keep on winning.
I know that angers a few of our friends. You know who you are, Jensen. But Richard, who do you think has been the biggest winner so far from free agency for you?
Well, I don't really have a exact winner because I haven't really been keeping up with free agency in the NFL that whole lot. But I have noticed the signings by the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Buccaneers. I do like that the Patriots decided to stick with Cam Newton for a while longer. I'm looking at the Dolphins for the most part, and they are adding more pieces to the puzzle, and I like to see where they go with that.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins have done a kind of weird offseason where they make some good moves, but it's not the splashy moves that you expect. Adding Will Fuller on a one-year deal is really good because Will Fuller, when he's healthy, is a vertical field stretcher who will allow Tua to push the ball down the field if he chooses to. Adding Justin Coleman to that secondary, which is already loaded, an amazing deal, one-year deal. If I were to choose a winner from free agency, I got to go with the New York Jets, man. They have had an amazing free agency period under Robert Saleh. They brought in Corey Davis from the Tennessee Titans, a receiver who I think can be a very solid wide receiver 2, maybe a wide receiver 1. You can bring him in. They brought in Carl Lawson from Cincinnati on a great deal. I think he's going to do amazing in Robert Saleh's defense. They brought in Sheldon Richardson, which I think is really interesting because Sheldon Richardson is a guy who plays really well when he's healthy on the interior of the defensive line. In Robert Saleh's base 4-3, cover 3 defense, you need to get good pass rush. A good defensive line is more important than a good secondary. Because if you can get pressure, none of who's in the secondary is really going to matter that much. Because you can affect the run game and the passing game. What Robert Saleh has been doing in New York has been great because they're trying to rebuild back around whoever's going to be at quarterback. I don't think it's going to be Sam Darnold, but I really do think the Jets have won so far. So we've talked about our winners. We obviously have to talk about losers. And I'll start off my losers basically by saying, Las Vegas, what are you doing? Raiders, man. The Raiders saw that they were involved in rumors for Russell Wilson and were like, yeah, we're going to go the opposite way. One of the reasons Russell Wilson was asked to be traded was because he wanted to go to a team with a good offensive line. The Raiders had a very good offensive line. So you know what they did? They traded their starting center. They traded their starting right tackle. They only kept the left tackle. The right guard, gone. So they literally have maybe 3 or 4 of their starting 5 gone. That's obviously a plan for success, you know? And you would think, like, yeah, you're going to invest that into the defense, which was really bad last year. Or you're going to invest in getting some good offensive linemen. No, they got a running back, Kenyon Drake. And not saying Kenyon Drake is bad, but paying him $14 million a year when you have Josh Jacobs, it doesn't make that much sense to me. I mean, Kenyon Drake is probably going to be a valuable addition to that team, but the allocation of funds can be done a lot better. And it's really an indictment on who runs that front office, Mike Mayock and John Gruden. Both came straight from TV back into the league. And you're kind of seeing that now with the Raiders' kind of strategy and game planning because I can pull it up real quick, but remember that trade they did for Khalil Mack? Yeah.
When they traded him to the Bears?
Yeah, when they traded him to the Bears. So we're looking back at the 2018 trade that sent Khalil Mack to the Bears. The Bears received Khalil Mack and a 2020 second-round pick and a 2020 seventh-round pick. The Raiders got the 2019 first-round pick, 2019 sixth-round pick, 2020 first-round pick, 2020 third-round pick. Those picks turned out to be Josh Jacobs, cornerback Bleswan Austin, cornerback Damon Arnett, and receiver Brian Edwards. Only one of those players has panned out so far. And it's really an indictment, like I said, on John Gruden and Mike Mayock. Because, like, dude, what are you doing? This is not smart. And, you know, they just had a not terrible offseason. Because, I mean, if we want to talk about terrible off seasons, I think we also have to talk about the Chicago Bears. But I'll get into them after I talk about I'll let you guys talk about who you thought has lost so far in free agency. Eston, who do you think has lost in free agency so far?
You know, if you consider Andy Dalton an upgrade to Mitch Trubisky,
he is. He is an upgrade. He's an upgrade from Mitch Trubisky.
I mean, you can upgrade from garbage to getting a nicer trash can like that. That's great.
Look,
it may smell better, but it's still trash at the end of the day.
I don't think that Andy Dalton is like that terrible. I just think this is an indictment on the Bears because they could have had Andy Dalton last year, but they got Nick Foles. And now they're trying to trade Nick Foles. And you know what happened with the Bears? Because they signed Andy Dalton to that contract, they had to cut their Pro Bowl corner who immediately went and signed with the Broncos less than 24 hours after he was cut. That's not good business. Ryan Pace, the Bears GM, should have been fired after 2018. Ooh, he should have been gone. Because there's no way they're letting this dude run a franchise. Every move has been the wrong move. He hasn't built the offensive line. The one thing he's done right is he got Khalil Mack and he franchise tagged Allen Robinson. But what he's done at the quarterback position deserves to get him fired. You were saying about the Bears?
I also think too, besides the Bears who are completely wasting what I at one point would consider a Super Bowl caliber defense. For me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Dolphins fan, but seeing the signings that the Patriots have made, I'm really conflicted because on one hand, I think they've made some sensible signings. For example, re-signing David Andrews, bringing in Devon Gottschalk from Miami on a relatively cheap deal for someone who I think could be around a top 15 defensive tackle in the league, and signing someone like Kyle Van Noy. I think that was a pretty decent pickup. But to then sign Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith on paying them both $12 million a year, I just don't see it, especially considering Hunter Henry's injury problems in the past. And signing someone like Jalen Mills, they got him on a decent deal, but then again, signing Nelson Aguilar, they're really paying $11 million to someone who's gonna get the best drops in the league. Like, good for them. I can't wait.
Best drops.
Look, man, this is probably not going to be very popular. Nelson Aguilar didn't play bad last year. He had a very solid season.
And now he's gonna drop his passes to New England because he got his bag. Like, he made the business decision.
I don't think $13 million a year is good for Nelson Aguilar. Well, it's great for Nelson Aguilar. Go get your money, man. I don't think it's good for the Patriots. What I will say about them signing both tight ends, as a Jaguars fan, I was not happy when they did that because I wanted one of those guys on the Jaguars, at least one. But, it reminds me of back when the Patriots were like this dominant offensive force when they had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. I'm not saying that Hunter Henry is a Rob Gronkowski clone. I don't think Jonnu Smith is an Aaron Hernandez clone.
I hope he's not an Aaron Hernandez clone.
Oh, gosh. Moving on. But I think Josh McDaniels, who was the offensive coordinator then, can use the same type of offense that he did with Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, and it'll make Cam Newton's job a lot easier. I don't think they're done adding. I think their defense is going to get a huge boost from having most of those guys return from opting out, although Patrick Chung retired. I think they're going to get a huge boost. I don't know if I'm buying into the offseason because, the reason that they spent this much money is because they were not good last year.
And they can't draft. I'm sorry.
We say that now, but New England's going to trade up and draft Justin Fields. That is a thing that is going to happen. I can already tell.
Can't wait to see his mid quarterback skills with a
okay. What we're not going to do is call Justin Fields mid because he's not mid, I don't think. In fact, if Trevor Lawrence wasn't in this draft, Justin Fields would be the number one pick. If Trevor Lawrence didn't exist, Justin Fields would be the best quarterback in this draft.
He's going to be high tier mid.
He's not. I don't think he's high tier mid. I really don't, because he's really good. Like he's
high tier mid.
No, not mid. You know who's mid? Mac Jones is mid. But everybody else above Mac Jones is going to be a very good quarterback in the NFL. I think the Patriots are going to trade up because a lot of talk has shown that Justin Fields is being the fourth quarterback drafted after Trey Lance and Zach Wilson. That is perfect for the Patriots, who can trade up and draft Justin Fields, who people have said reminds them a lot of a young Cam Newton. So have fun with that while the Jaguars draft the next coming of Peyton Manning. And not to turn this into the Jaguars podcast, but I think the Jaguars had a fine offseason. Nothing really to write home about. I'll get into it more later, but missing out on those tight ends hurt really bad. Moving on to the NBA. It's been kind of tough because, we just got news yesterday. LaMelo Ball is going to be out for the season, fractured wrist. LeBron's going to be out indefinitely. messed up ankle. KD is out. Embiid's injured. Anthony Davis is injured. All the good players are injured. We're still in a pandemic. This just feels like a season that is lost. But if we're going to discuss so far what's been going on in the NBA, man, what team so far has surprised you or disappointed you at this stage in the season? Richard, what team has surprised you?
Well, that name still goes to the Knicks for obvious reasons. As in the last episode, we talked about the Knicks. They are still going at it with Coach Tom Thibodeau. That defense is still elite, and Julius Randle is getting triple doubles somehow. He's just dropping everybody off as he sees them.
I know, man. Julius Randle's been having a season for the ages, and it's crazy because, like we said before, this is his 8th season in the NBA. You normally don't see the breakout this late.
And also, shout out to the Hawks for bouncing back as they're on a very good winning streak.
Yeah, that was going to be my team that surprised me. The Atlanta Hawks. They got 8 straight wins after firing Lloyd Pierce. Nate McMillan proving that he should have never been fired by the Pacers. That is a whole nother discussion for another time. But I really do think the Hawks have really impressed me with how they've rebounded after firing their head coach. Again, it just shows Nate McMillan, one of the better coaches in the league. Eston, what team has surprised you so far?
Phoenix Suns. I expected them to be a pretty decent team coming into the season, but to be second in the West at this point in the season, I think that they're really going to capitalize on the injuries to LeBron and AD. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and I honestly did not even wait. Hold on, I'm sorry. I was just looking at the roster, but the Suns, led by Chris Paul and Devin Booker, who, and for Devin Booker, actually, Chris Paul too, quietly, some of the best players in the league for quite a while, I would say, especially Chris Paul.
Yeah. Chris Paul just recently, yesterday, notched his 10,000th career assist, joining Mark Jackson, Steve Nash, Magic Johnson, and John Stockton.
Only time you're going to hear about Mark Jackson on an all-time list.
A leader in all-time assists. I don't think he's going to catch John Stockton because although Chris Paul is at 10,000, John Stockton leads in career assists with 15,000, over 15,000 assists. It would take a Herculean effort for him to reach John Stockton, although I want to see it. It's also kind of funny that Steve Nash has literally one more assists than Mark Jackson. If it were me, I'd unretire, go get those 2 assists, and then retire. I'm being all the way petty. This is mine. I'm Mark Jackson, dude. I'm not going to make the Hall of Fame. Let me have this.
With all due respect.
With all due respect to Mark Jackson, you're not making the Hall, buddy. let him have this. But, we're going to talk about disappointing teams. And I feel like
there's a big elephant.
Richard knows who my disappointing team. Richard knows who Richard's disappointing team is. I feel like Eston knows who the disappointing team is. Let's all just laugh at the Celtics, man. I mean, seriously. Let's talk about it. Because I think it was like 2016 or 2017. They were 1 game away from making the finals. And everybody was like, Boston is the next big thing. What has happened since then? They've been blown out by Milwaukee in the playoffs. They've lost to Miami in the conference finals. Every time a player gets traded, it's always Boston was close to doing this. Then why didn't you do it? Boston is becoming the most excuses team I have ever seen in my life. And frankly, the excuses don't work anymore. You have 2 all-stars, and you are below the Hawks and the Heat. And the Heat haven't even had a full roster for the whole season. Like Jimmy Butler didn't play like at least 15 games. Bam has been injured. Dry has been injured. And the Celtics, again, 2 all-stars. They were thought before the season be one of those teams who can challenge for the East. And they are nowhere near that. Like, they have been dysfunctional on the court. Kemba Walker has not been what they thought he was. They have no big man. And again, I don't want to hear anything from Danny Ainge ever again. You keep talking about how you were almost going to get James Harden. You almost had him. You were almost going to get Anthony Davis. You almost had him. I think they've been tied to Nikola Vucevic and Aaron Gordon recently. You almost had him, but you didn't get him. You want to know why? Because Boston is not good. There. Boston sucks. They're not a good team this year. Like, it's hilarious to me how you can go from having 2 All-Stars, being in the conference finals, to literally losing to Cleveland. And that's not saying like Cleveland's bad. Cleveland's had a good season. But you expect Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to do their thing, and they have. But you paid $100-something million for Kemba Walker. And what has he done? Not a single thing, man. But honestly, I'm just laughing, man. It's all jokes over here. I mean, Richard, go ahead, talk about your Celtics. But let it be known that by the end of the season, I think Brad Stevens is going to be coaching the University of Indiana.
Low key, I think so too. Brad might go to Indiana. He's denying it, but really, he wants to go back home.
We know.
We get that feeling. You can deny it all you want, but we know. We know.
Yep.
Okay, aside from Boston, the biggest elephant in the room, the Rockets. How you're gonna lose 20 straight games? Why are you trying to give me 2012 Charlotte Bobcats vibes with this type of losing streak?
I can't really blame the Rockets, dog. And I really can't blame Steven Silas, because they expected to come into this season with Russell Westbrook, Eric Gordon, James Harden, PJ Tucker. 3 of those guys are gone. Christian Wood was out for like 15 games. That's like their best player, most consistent player.
They still have solid players in John Wall, Victor Oladipo, and wow, I'm just shocked. 20 straight losses.
I mean, are we really shocked?
I didn't expect them to lose 20 straight.
Are we seriously shocked though?
20 straight.
Again, what did we expect from Houston? They got John Wall. Cool. You expected John Wall to come back to being John Wall after having a catastrophic lower leg injury for like 3 straight years.
Of course not, but 20 straight losses?
That team's not good.
Imagine leaving one terrible team just to think you're about to be on a really good team. And then get into a worse situation.
They were a good team. They were a good team when they had James Harden.
But like that's what I'm saying. Imagine thinking for once you're about to be on a good team. And then that player that made that team good gets shipped off, and then you're back to square one again.
He didn't get shipped off. He forced himself out.
I really just feel bad for Steven Silas, man.
Yeah.
Because this is a lot even for him to handle. He was in the post game it was sad because this is not what you wanted as a first year head coach. And, you're probably going to see those rumors about Steven Silas maybe getting fired at the end of the season, but this is not on him. None of this is on him. He's done everything he could with what he had. And, 20 straight is bad. It really is. But they don't have 2 All-Stars and are below the Hawks and the Heat. So,
God. Oh God.
I will never ever let this go. It is hilarious to me. I will continue laughing. I mean, seriously.
When the Knicks and Hornets goodbye. Oh God.
But speaking more a little about the NBA, it is trade deadline, trade season swiftly approaching. Richard, who do you expect to be shipped out by the end of this week?
I don't really know, man. I hear about Toronto.
That's
Maybe,
another team. Toronto's just been weird.
yeah, they're on an 8-game losing streak. Like they've been 500, then they went on an 8-game losing streak. So I don't
Yeah.
know what's really going on with them, but I hear about the Raptors being in the trade deadline, and this trade deadline has been very quiet. I haven't heard much.
I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot about Kyle Lowry. I've heard a lot from the Magic. The Magic have
Oh
especially
yeah,
been
Noah
real
Depot
active.
from the Rockets.
Yeah, I've heard a lot from the Magic with specifically Aaron Gordon, who requested a trade. I believe it was yesterday or today. And I'm gonna eat crow on this because every year I talk myself into the Orlando Magic, and every year they disappoint me. I don't know what to expect now. Every year it's the same thing with the Orlando Magic. And I'm not even like a Magic fan, I'm a Heat fan. But I really just want Orlando to be good. I think they have the pieces there. They just need a few more things. And it's sad because you're wasting Nikola Vucevic, who is an all-star, but he plays in Orlando, so he never really gets that notoriety. Now, I've seen that Boston is linked to Nikola Vucevic and Aaron Gordon. Go ahead and do it. If you're Danny Ainge, what do you have to lose? I mean, I've seen rumors that Orlando has wanted Jaylen Brown in that package with Aaron Gordon and the Orlando Magic. And I'm like, wait, that's a little too much there. But if I'm Miami, I'm looking at Vucevic too. I'm saying, hey, look, what can we get to keep him in state? Send him to Miami. Because Vucevic will be a pretty interesting addition alongside Bam Adebayo. It'd be fun because what Vucevic lacks in quickness and really like above the rim, like explosion, that's what Bam Adebayo does. And what Bam Adebayo lacks right now is a true post game, although it's still developing. That's what Nikola Vucevic does. So that's really kind of I expect Aaron Gordon to be traded by the end of this week. I expect for there to be a LaMarcus Aldridge buyout by the end of this week. But really, the big fish is definitely going to be Kyle Lowry and whatever happens with the Raptors. Eston, what do you think so far?
Well, first off, if we weren't limited to certain words on the show, I would use a certain Pat Riley quote that he said to Danny Ainge one time about Danny Ainge talking about like him wanting to get Aaron Gordon and thinking that he's going to build this really good team. Sorry, Richard. Danny Ainge is more overrated than Doc Rivers is as a coach. But besides that,
to be fair, the last great trade from Danny Ainge was in 2013. So I get.
You know what's crazy?
Your point.
You know what's crazy about that trade? Because I think you're talking about the Nets trade, right?
Yes, the picks.
The Nets are closer to the finals than the Celtics are. That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
The Nets traded away literally every draft pick for the next 15 years to the Celtics. And the Celtics have turned that into 0 finals appearances, 0 championships. You made 2 conference finals, and you have 2 All-Stars.
Actually, no.
Congratulations.
2017, 2019, 2020. So that's 3.
It made 3 years. You made it, and then didn't do anything. Brooklyn takes their lack of draft picks and turns it into Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, and says, "Screw you,
Blake Griffin."
Blake Griffin dunked, dude. I was shocked. They gave him the super soldier serum when they got the Brooklyn. They must have they gave him the vaccine already. They gave him super soldier serum and a vaccine. They're like, "This is gonna help you out, buddy." And he went and dunked. I mean, it wasn't like an explosive like windmill we're expecting to see from Blake Griffin, but he got up there and he hung on the rim, and it was good to see. Except for if you're a Detroit fan, which thoughts and prayers. But it's gonna be a really interesting trade deadline because there are a lot of teams that are looking to sell high, and there are some teams that really could use a lot of trade pieces, like Miami, like Boston. I've seen the Lakers potentially be involved in some trades. It's going to be important for Los Angeles because they're going to go into a period without LeBron and Anthony Davis, which
don't you mean LeBron wanting a trade instead of just the Lakers?
Well, see, it's not, I don't think it's just LeBron. I think the Lakers see that this roster outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis, I don't think is going to win them games. And it looks like Anthony Davis and LeBron are going to be out for extended periods of time. So they need something to hold them over. At least they need someone to drive the boat. They don't have to like turn or anything. Just steer the boat. Don't turn left. Don't turn right. Just go straight. It's like when you learning how to drive. They don't throw everything at you on the first day. They just say, just put your foot on the gas. It's easy. But we're going to go back to college basketball because I forgot to mention that in our breaks between shows, we did our bracket for the University Press. And it's been quite an interesting bracket, I'm laughing a lot at this tournament bracket. So far, the University Press bracket has Creighton winning the NCAA tournament championship. So far, we have gotten 4% of the games right.
4%.
4%. But the ones that we did get right, we got Oregon right so far. Let's see. We got North Texas right. That's shocking to me.
Based off the color.
Yeah. We got Loyola. We didn't get Loyola Chicago right because we thought Drexel was going to be Illinois. Thank you to the University Press. We've gotten Syracuse right so far. So we've gotten 4% of the games correct. I knew there was one upset in here that I was genuinely shocked that we got right. Oral Roberts. We got Oral Roberts right. And we got Oregon State right. So we picked a lot of the upsets, but past that point, like I said, 4% of the games have been correct. That's going to do it for our NCAA tournament coverage. Like we said, the University Press bracket has been right 4% of the time. But of those 4%, we got North Texas right. We got Oral Roberts right. So shout out to the staff members of the University Press who chose Oral Roberts because of their name. But that'll do it for this wonderful episode of the University Press UPressPlay Sports Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify and Twitter at UPressOnline. Give us 5 stars. If you don't give us 5 stars, we're going to think you're a hater. We're going to make Eston really sad. You're going to make Jules sad. And for that, we're going to have to send Big Red out to get you. For business manager Eston Parker, for sports editor Richard Pereira, for photo editor Eston Parker, for sports editor Richard Pereira, I'm business manager Joseph Acosta. Oh boy, we've had a great show. Make sure to stop by again, listening on FAU Owl Radio Wednesdays from 12 to 1. That'll do it for this episode. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, bye.
You gonna get the baby sharks?
Hi, Joel.
You say hi? Can you wave hi? You wanna go play with mom and dad? All right, bye-bye. Oh, never mind. Come on. Come on. You coming? All right. We're gonna let's see how much time we have left. All right, we got 5 minutes. I think I can end this off in 5 minutes. Well, I'll just go ahead and start from how I normally end, but so